to Paul Nazzaro to begin this morning's presentation. So Paul, let me see if I'm doing this properly. I'm going to make you the presenter. And Paul, the floor should be yours now.
Thank you, Eric. You got it?
Yep, you're the presenter.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Eric, Margie, and Ted. Don Farrell all did a great job putting this together, and I admire what you've done to keep us all communicating, because I think that's the most important thing, obviously, at this point in time. Most of us been tied up since March, and that's a long time to be tied up by yourself. And trying to build relationships and maintain relationships has been quite challenging, but I'm elated that you've given me the opportunity to lead off. Usually I don't lead off, but like you said, this is going to be an unconventional set of remarks. So just to set the table, this presentation is built on the platform of a book called The Anticipatory Organization. The author was Daniel Burrus. I picked this book up some time ago in my travels. I was flying out of some airport, coming back to Boston, and just looking for a read. I immersed myself in the book, and I liked it a lot, so much so that several reads later, I was determined to share what I had learned from this book with those that I interface with on a day-to-day basis. So, what you're going to see here is all about being visionary. We're going through very disruptive times right now. I didn't plan on talking towards or through a pandemic, but I think, you're going to see that much of what I have to say could be tied back into what we're enduring as individuals, families, and business people with the pandemic itself. So it's titled Transitioning Disruption and Turning It into Opportunity. And I think that's the way you have to look at what you're dealing with here, all of us. We're a microcosm of the energy landscape, as many of you know. When you look at how much fuel is, consumed throughout the nation, it's like 50 billion gallons. And here in the heating oil mecca that we operate in PADS 1, A, and B, all in residential, commercial, and industrial heating oil is about 7 billion gallons. But for residential heating oil, it's 3.5 billion gallons. But just so you know you're in good company, what I'm going to be promoting here today, nothing's being sold here. There's no products. This is like going to the chiropractor for an alignment or to your neurological adjuster. When you want to just check in and see if we're thinking all on the same page. Because I'm going to say this, I will say this one time. What we're embarking on as an industry is going to take each one of us to muscle in here. This is not a one person, one organization, one large heating oil company's endeavor. Everybody's got to be in lockstep in order for us to transition this industry into low carbon liquid fuels. And I just read a report I pulled down off the net over the weekend from Deloitte Consulting, and it was called Navigating the Energy Transition from Disruption to Growth. And they polled many, many large companies, 100 million plus, 50 and below. And at the end, I'm going to just share with you some of the observations out of that analysis. Anyone interested in that report, I can, flip it over to you if you're interested in it. But I learned a lot from that as well. What I learned is where we're embarking on this pathway to low carbon liquid fuels, major companies around the nation and around the world are already in that direction. They have sustainability programs. They believe they have to get to low carbon liquid fuels or options to meet the goals and objectives of government. So I hope you enjoy it. And if you don't, well, what better way to spend Monday morning than with me? I think you will. And I think you're going to see a lot of what you do within the remarks that I'm going to make here today. So I'd like to start off with just giving you an overview of what I think you should be taking away from my remarks this morning. When you leave, I would hope that you can identify and improve revenue generation, taking morsels of what I have to say and figuring out how to lace it up into the products and services that you sell. I'm also hoping that I can convert some of the minds here to think, plan, and innovate through a new mindset. I'm going to use certain terms here like rear view mirror thinking, taking what you think from the past and bringing it into the future. That doesn't normally work very well. And one of the big things is I want to determine if you are a disruptor like myself. I'm noted to be a disruptor in a positive way. Or are you going to be and maintain, being disrupted for the balance of your career? So it's either you are or you are not. And then finally, hopefully, give you some pieces of a puzzle on how you can master the transition to the low carbon world that we're embarking on as a group. So before I step into my remarks, this is the, if we call the moment of reflection. Simple question. No need to answer this to yourself. What are your expectations for growth in the desired metrics to determine your success and your company's success? So pause for a second and think about that. What are your expectations for growth in the desired metrics to determine success? All right. Just keep that and compartmentalize whatever your answer was to yourself. Come right out of the box. Navigating disruption. Hold on one second. Oh boy. Eric, can you still see the presentation?
I can, Paul.
Okay, stand by. For some reason, okay. I apologize. I'm going to shut my...
Paul, I'm sorry, I was talking and I was on mute. Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. All right, I'm going to get through this. I had to pull my template just blew off here. So navigating disruption, couple of things. It starts with accepting a challenge that's before us. We know what that is. We're going to transfer ourselves from high carbon fuels to low carbon. So we have to go from challenge to change, bust things up and shake up, and then finally disrupt. But when you look at navigating disruption, these are the type of things I personally see on the top of my list. Unpredictability, right? Market volatility, supply disruptions. The pandemic, definitely uncharted waters for all of us. Transitioning to low carbon liquid fuels, basically build it and they will come. And then one of the biggest challenges I think that we all face is indifference within our industry, the aging population syndrome. That's the group of people within our industry that are at a certain age that have basically had enough. They're enjoying their business. It's successful. Why do I want to follow the leader into the battlefield to transition? I think I'm just going to ride the bull for the full 8 seconds and get off when it's over. Unfortunately, that doesn't work. Indifference does not work in this model because in order for us to collectively win, those with the indifference have to fish or cut bait, as they say, because it will take us down. We can't have all of us sitting around a table thinking that the industry is or is not worth saving. It's normally the same group of fuel dealers sitting at a table at a policy meeting or whatever meeting, but there's thousands of fuel dealers out there that their voices are never heard. Now, you could argue, well, then they should step up and be heard. That's true, they should. But a lot of them don't have the resources that many of the larger scale companies have with multi-levels of management and marketing people and CSRs, et cetera. Some of these people actually operate off kitchen tables today, as they did when they started their business, and they don't have time to join the battle. But we have to bring them with us. So navigating disruption, again, starts with the challenge, adopting change, shaking things up, and to go to full-blown disruption. So what if you could think about this, identify disruptions before they impacted your career, organization, or industry? Or accelerate innovation with greater certainty and lower the risk? Or predict problems and solve them before they happen? What if you could do these things? Well, first of all, you'd have to be, one of the world's greatest mentalists to be able to do those things. So if you're like me, an average person, you can't. You can plan, you can prepare, but that takes a special skill, and that's anticipating the next play, the next move. Whether you're a football coach, soccer coach, it's strategic. You can't wake up every day, just jump into your car or truck, etc., and execute. You have to plan the night before, weeks before, what's going to happen in the future. That's the only way to the pathway to success. Otherwise, you're just going along through the system, grinding it out. So again, I don't think anyone's probably the world's greatest mentalist on this call this morning. I know I'm not. So with that, you have to kind of change the way you think in order to get to the next level. So that takes us to disruptive innovation. The definition would be, it's an innovation that creates a new market in value network. So here's a good example of the fletching, which is the tail end of the arrow, is the beginning of innovation. With the disruption on the far end is the arrow. So a lot of people think they're actually innovating and changing just by doing the same thing every day better. And Boris and I would argue that that's not just innovation. Innovation is doing things differently, doing new things. So to follow the track, just going to do the same thing. For example, when we transitioned to ultra-low sulfur heating oil years ago, we did things a little bit better. But if we just stayed on that arrow line and only had ULSHO as our product for the future, we would be abruptly ended. Enter low carbon liquid fuels. That's doing new things better. Making things that were once great, basically make the old things obsolete. And that's what you're involved with right now. Whether you're fully involved with it, engaged, whether you're against it or for it, we're going through this course right now. We're taking old ways and turning them into new ways. And that's how we're going to change our product as well. So commonly in this book, you're going to hear things about hard trends and soft trends. So let's talk a little bit about the hard trends. A hard trend is a future fact that provides something that's very empowering called certainty. And that's one thing none of us have is certainty, right? Market volatility, supply disruptions, product quality. Now enter low carbon liquid fuels. The biodiesel industry has their own sets of challenges and uncertainty. Does the tax credit come? Does it go? Can we play long ball without it? So hard trends are going to happen, by the way, whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not. You can't push back on hard trends. He focuses on three primary categories here. Technology, which is the cloud, social technologies. I mean, think about when you started your businesses, most of you. There was no cell phones, most likely. We played on beepers. We'd jump out of the car, go to a phone booth, make the phone calls. You've gone through how many iterations of different type of telephones. Technology's changed. Our data is now kept up in the cloud, but before it used to be in the basement in brown boxes that used to get like all wet and decrepit from the moisture in the basements. I mean, we've really evolved technologically, and it's only going to expedite and get broader and more sophisticated as time moves on. Demographics on hard trends is better than 78 million baby boomers out there, one being me. And so people that are looking at baby boomers are wondering, what are the future trends? So you know that our parts are breaking down, right? I need hips, I need knees, things are changing. So the focus with the medical industry is they're looking at the baby boomers and they're building their businesses around the evolution of these bodies, aging, necessitating care. Nursing centers, how will they live? Where will we put these people? So there's a big demographic play in what we do. For us too, by the way, because in the heating oil industry, you know, when you look at the lay of the land, there's not many homes being built with oil heat here right now. And I think if you went to talk to a young person, a millennial, about, you know, using heating oil, I'm not too sure they'd be favorable on it because frankly, it doesn't fit within the social environment, you know, greenhouse gases. I mean, they care. There are different populations. Some care about the environment, some don't care about the environment. But demographics plays a big role in this. And finally, government regulations. I don't have to say much about that. There's never going to be less government regulations. They're meddling in everything. They've been meddling in our space for a long time. You know, the SPC program, how you store, you know, drums of product on the ground, spill containment, you drop X amount of gallons, and everything's regulated. The town of Brookline, you can talk to Mima about that. You know, basically trying to keep us out, right? No new construction or retrofits with oil heat or natural gas. I mean, think about that. We're going to electric, people. Step on board the electric train. That's where you're going. So government regulations are going to get more beefier, and it's not going to be less. You need to deal with that. Again, these hard trends are going to happen whether we like it or not. On the other side is what they call soft trends. So a soft trend, definition, it's a future maybe, a projection based on some stats or other metrics that appears to be tangible and predictable, but it's really not. Soft trends are things that might happen. You can't build your business model on soft trends. So from the other side of the camp that I represent, the biodiesel side or the low carbon liquid fuel side, it's a hard trend. They know that low carbon liquid fuels are not going away. Whether you push back on low carbon liquid fuels to integrate into your high carbon fuels or not, they're going to go and go and go. There's only opportunity for that side of the business because that's what government's driving them to. The West Coast is a great example of that. So again, hard trends are fact-based, backed by facts, and you can bank on it and build your model around it. Soft trends, maybe. Another interesting element here is he makes you think about both and, not either or. A lot of people I talk to about bioheating oil or changing that don't want to leave the past, I think fail to understand that you actually can have both, and you will have both. You're not going to 100% low carbon liquid fuels this week, next week or the week after, or a month, a quarter. This is a progression. So you need to think about both and, not either or. Basically, embrace the future, but protect your past. And a couple of examples here. When you look at new and improved products, they're always on the market. I mean, whether it's toothpaste, detergent, it doesn't really make a difference. They're considered breakthrough technologies, cleans better, whitens more, whatever it may be. But they don't replace the old ones. If you walk down the aisles in a supermarket, there's countless products doing the same thing, plus or minus. So when you look at this, and you can look at, I guess, the examples I put here on the screen for you to think about. Digital media, it's everywhere. I get my news on my phone. I very rarely pick up a newspaper. I like books. But hey, newspapers and magazines, they're still there, even though we're awash in digital communications. Music, love music. So digital downloadable music, that's it, right? You go on, you download your music, and you're gone for the day. Then why is it that CDs are still in the market? Why is it that people still buy vinyl? They coexist. The past is coexisting with the future. And now let me flip it into our sector. We have ultra-low sulfur heating oil, voila. But now with biodiesel, we have a future. The blending of the low carbon with the high carbon to sustain ourselves. Same thing, whether it's CDs, vinyl, telephones, we fit into this model. You can adopt a new future. You can protect the past, but eventually the past has to basically go by the wayside. Not because I said so, but because that's the direction this country is going in, low carbon. On the human element, I like this here. This is a great movie. Instead of assuming that, older people don't have a place, otherwise I'd probably be removed from my own company at this point, and my son would run the company without me. But instead of assuming a choice between old and new, you can integrate old and new. And I think the combination of both, even with human resources in our companies, you bring a lot of the new people coming in that don't have really communication skills, that don't look people in the eyes, that can't have a conversation, that want to borrow themselves on their phone or their iPad, or text their ally up the hallway in the next office. I think a lot can be learned from the past. I certainly know we may be changing our fuels, but we will not change our principles and how we run our businesses. The oil and heat industry is a very personal business. We all heard the stories before. We're one of the few businesses. We fall into first responders like police and fire and medics. We're out answering the phone at 2 in the morning. That's not going to change. The only thing that's going to change, and for the good, is the low carbon liquid fuel that's going to go in those storage tanks to provide the comfort required by our customers. So listen, you have a choice here with this evolution, if you would. You can leverage disruption to your advantage. You can still run your core business just the way it's currently being run. You don't have to change that. But as a reminder, as I evolve into this, my remarks here, this disruption is going to occur. Again, whether you like it or not. If you don't do it, someone else is going to do it. It's becoming clear. If you go around the landscape, handfuls of dealers have adopted bio-blended fuels. Whether they buy it or not, they have a pioneer mentality that that's the evolution. This is where we're going. I'm going to go there first. I'm going to let all the others that are following figure out how to catch up. And it's going to cost you more time and energy to catch up if you don't get involved with the evolution and the transition as we see it right now. So again, choose not to do it. Someone else will certainly do it. So I said earlier, I wanted to know where you fit into the spectrum. So for me personally, I've always been, I never called myself a disruptor. I like to call myself a visionary. That's kind of an overused terminology, but I was a disruptor. From the day I started, in retail home heating oil, and I evolved into my own business. I always looked forward. I always wanted to differentiate both my company and those that I serve. And to be that person, you need to be able to disrupt. So what is disruption? Because disruption can be viewed negatively. Here, it's basically taking the path, I guess, less traveled, upending these historical products and services. I mean, why wouldn't we want to improve our product? That's another thing I'd like you to think about. Pretty much everything that's in your office, at your home, has evolved. I mean, no one has a problem pulling down a 70-inch TV off the wall and not have anyone repair it, just replace it with the next one because it's 4G, 5G, 6G. Got to have it. We don't change oil tanks that are 50 years old, but we're going to change our 50, 60, or 70-inch monitor. Think about the prioritization there. That's the heart of the home that keeps people comfortable, and yet it's the most ignored element because no one's going to go down when they have company. Hey, come on down. I want to show you my new oil tank. It's unfortunate, but being a disruptor starts with leapfrogging or upending the norm. Now, a lot of people are very restless with this. They're very uncomfortable around disruption because you're making me do things I didn't want to do. But again, that's where you have to determine, are you going to lead disruption and be comfortable leading it, or are you just going to go and be disruptive and be gnarly about it and be the service technician, not to pick on the service technician, but that's at the shop picking up nozzles and strainers and filters for his run that day. And because he doesn't totally understand what's going on, negatively comments about the transition this industry is leading itself into to survive. So products that came before us, the changes amongst us right now, autonomous vehicles, digital photography, electrifications, the buzz of the buzz of the buzz, phones are changing, software is changing, and so is low carbon liquid fuel. So again, now is the time to determine, be the disruptor and not the disrupted. Specific to organizations fear it. If you walk into any office, which I wish I could get to visit people again, often you see people with their heads down doing their job. Keep your heads down and do your job. Stay on course. You don't have to go to the left or the right. You stay straight ahead because disruption implies risk. And too often, leaders at the top don't want to absorb that risk. Because unlike hedging a barrel of oil, downside protection, etc., they struggle with managing the downside of a creative thinker, someone that has a better idea. Just keep your ideas to yourself. I pay you to stay focused. That's got to stop. As I said earlier, it's not going to be a CEO, COO, CFO, president, GM that drives this. We want them on board because upstream, downstream, I get that. But the CSR, the driver, the technician, everyone has to be on board because collectively we need to tell a story. And I'm going to get to that in a second on where we're going and why we're going. The best kept secret right now is what tool we have available to us to have a sustainable industry, and that's the low carbon story. So we got to figure out how to deal with this problem. That's the group of people that are going to follow the disruptors. And believe me, when you are coming in last, it's going to cost you more money and human resources to tell your customers why you're relevant because someone's already come in to tell the story ahead of you. Here I want to share with you the model itself, okay? So it starts with know what's next. and then the transformation and planning. So let's tell real stories for what it's worth. Over a decade ago, I think it was 2003, maybe even longer than that, I felt as though, having represented the biodiesel community for surface fuels, going into transit buses specifically, I saw the benefits of the molecule, and I asked myself, why can't we transfer that thought process to heating oil? Growing up in heating oil, having worked for a company called Old Colony Oil Heat back in 1979, 1980, I remember going to homes, talking to the customers when you had two people in the house to talk to, and I used to, tell them about the benefits of oil heat, watchdog service, budget plans, high quality oil. Well, those stories run old now. Everybody's got all that stuff. So I thought, how do you transfer this industry? So it was back then, the terminology bioheat was just a place setter, but that's how I felt what was next. And this is way before government intervention. I just felt this would be a great way to transition ourselves into the future. Okay, so that's what knowing what's next means. Then develop opportunities. Countless interactions, linking industries and organizations together, visiting fuel dealers and wholesalers to talk to them about the transition and what it would mean. Basically, Picasso going into offices and boardrooms with a blank canvas and a paintbrush, trying to share with them, imagine this. Imagine if we had a clean fuel, because the market degradation had already been in full perpetual motion. Back in 2007, when Neuro was putting their thumb up and testing the winds, consumers didn't have a favorable impression of us or our product. Well, I shouldn't say us. I take that back. They didn't have a favorable impression of the product we sold. So developing the opportunity started with the technical and transformation innovation, getting everybody on board with the messaging. We're way beyond that now, people. We're in the process right now. We've already started shaping the future and transforming our culture. Hence, MiFi, Providence Resolution 2023 B20, moving up to 50, moving to B100, net zero by 2050. We've, through the idea, germinating the seed, watering the seed, we're harvesting now, buy it or not. And now we're in the final leg of this journey, accelerate success. That's why I thought when Eric and Margie asked me, would you like to talk like you normally talk? I said, I'd love to talk, but I don't want to talk about plug filters and nozzles and strainers. There's going to be enough of that going on here for the next 30 days to talk about. We got plenty to talk about there. This is a mindset. How are you going to embrace this change? And are you going to come out on the other side thinking like, if you would, a disruptor that practices an anticipatory organization? Companies that elevate their planning based on those high trends I mentioned a second ago, they will be the ones that will shape our future, their future and ours. And the question now, moment for reflection again, does your company fit into that definition? Companies that elevate their planning based on high trends? Or is it more of the same? Got to wake up to make the donuts. You also got to get up to deliver the oil, send the truck to the rack. Here's your delivery tickets, get it done. Oops, service call, clean outs. It's the routine. It's the mold we're in. Somebody's got to be thinking about how to improve those, not only the products, but our services, how we deliver our message. I mentioned earlier about rear view mirror thinking. I'm going to give you a couple little anecdotes now. Tendency to use your past experiencing to frame your future. I'm not too sure that works. Actually, I'm confident it doesn't work, because you've drawn opinion from experience. But if everything's changing around us at the rapid rate of speed that it is, how in God's name could we possibly bring into a discussion or a planning session how things used to be? I'm going to show you some examples of organizations that had that mentality, and then you can be the judge if rear view mirror thinking is the right type of thinking. Here they are. Bear with me here. So why didn't a cab driver think about ride sharing? Think about that. Why didn't the Marriott or the Westin or the Sheraton develop Airbnb? And here's a great example. Where was Blockbuster? How come they didn't establish, what were they doing that they didn't have a market prevent defense to protect themselves, not from one punch in the face by Netflix, when they gave customers unlimited rental time, just send them back when you can, you won't be penalized. That was enough to put Blockbuster up against the wall, but then they pummeled them and knocked them out like a steel cage match by taking it to streaming video. Think about where you would have been the last 120 days without Netflix. So where was Blockbuster? What were they thinking about? Probably just to do the same thing every day, protecting themselves with a big bad giant, and no one's going to take us down. Enough said there. How about Zuckerberg? He chose not to take Yahoo's $1 billion offer to buy him out. I wonder what he was thinking about in his team. Jesus, if someone offered me $1 billion, I'd shut my computer now and leave the building. So I know I would. But he didn't. And you got to ask yourself, why didn't he? And the rest is history with him and his organization. Now let's bring it to us. Why didn't the heating oil industry adopt low carbon liquid fuels already? What the heck are we waiting for? We see the writing on the wall. Here's the reason. The missing competency. It was their inability and our inability to anticipate what the future looks like without this change that we're trying to endorse. So the missing competency is anticipation. An anticipatory mindset allows you to see through all the nonsense, the haze, the fog, to identify the opportunities that you can exploit to be viable and relevant. And again, remember what I said earlier. These naysayers, the ones that just don't want to take the drive with us to the future, that's bad. So again, driving a cab, now they're all groaning. They don't like Lyft. They don't like these companies. Look at the efficiencies. Imagine not having to go into your pocket to take coins out of your pocket, give them the right change, making sure you give them the right tip. A hotel chain, I can't believe what a missed opportunity. So those are just examples of people that lacked the foresight, that thought nothing was ever going to change. Well, it did for a lot of these organizations. Another thing I want to mention is milking innovation. A lot of people that I engage with have adopted technologies, have adopted brands to market differentiate themselves. And brands don't, some people think branding is like Botox injections, just altering the image, but nothing's really going under the surface. And that's wrong. Are there brands out there that are probably bogus? And I don't mean in our world. Any product, pick the product. I mean, will this toothpaste actually whiten my teeth more than the other toothpaste? I mean, who's measuring this? I mean, who knows? But milking innovation, just look around. We're the only industry that doesn't evolve. Other than those that want to take brand, upgrading product quality with branding and offering a customer more value in that molecule. But the downside of milking innovation, if you think you're going to go on forever selling high carbon fuels, market and margin erode. You become an obvious casualty for remaining stagnant. And again, it opens the door for the next best thing. And guess what the next best thing is? It's not you, and it's not me. It's electrification, because the government said that's the way we're going. We're going to go to split systems. It's already happening on the road. I sat through a trends presentation the other day with a large molecule manufacturer, taking me through the trends. Listen to the Fuels Institute, John Eichenberg. He talks here. When will total market maturation be for electrification on the road? 2035, 2040? We got plenty of time. Don't worry. Let's just keep selling our high carbon fuels. Milking innovation. Don't sit on your laurels. So indifference doesn't work. Those that don't proactively evolve, improve, or lead are going to scramble to defend their status quo. And I guarantee you, it's going to cost you more time and aggravation explaining to your customer why your competitor came in and talked about this new trend in the liquid fuels business than it would be to be in front of this. Get behind your state leaders. Get behind NEFI. These people need help. There's 5 working groups, hundreds of people working tirelessly over the last 120 days trying to build this roadmap. Some people say, waste of time, never going to happen. These people are going to make it happen. And I'm encouraging everybody today, get behind your state leadership groups. Eric's, Ted's, Mike's, Chris's, you name them. They're there. They're working exhaustively because they have to get this industry into hyperdrive. We can no longer sit idle. And another great example is Kodak. There's another giant. There's an organization that invented digital photography. First to the map. But they said, this product has limitations. As I recall, the pixel resolutions weren't good enough. When they try to transfer a file, it just took too long, the limited bandwidth. It made sharing the photos very challenging, according to leadership at Kodak. Well, everybody knows Kodak. Now, upstate New York, there is no Kodak. They chose to stay the same. So, shifting up here, steps to turn disruption into opportunity. These are questions that you have to be able to answer. These are my answers. You're welcome to answer them on your own. What are the hard trends that will impact your business and your customers over the next 5 years? I maintain carbon-based fuels market share continues to erode. That's us. Consumers will scramble to determine future fuels. That's your customer. And government regulations will become even more oppressive if that's possible. Talk to Eric. He fights the electrification game. Talk to Ted. Every state's going through this. No one is exempt. There's no, like COVID-19, you got to wear your mask everywhere. This is yet another disease, oppressive government interface. So where are the opportunities? What are they? I believe low carbon liquid fuels. Okay, yes, here's the pitch, biodiesel. Well, the only reason I mentioned biodiesel is, for the record, there is no other low carbon liquid fuels available to this industry at this particular time that's going to help us keep us in the game. Renewable diesel is an option. You'll hear, I'm sure, a lot about renewable diesel over the next month if you're joining these sessions, as Eric has encouraged you to do, and I would highly encourage you to listen to Eric. But here's the deal. Renewable diesel found a home on the West Coast. Renewable diesel comes at a very high premium. And by the way, biodiesel, renewable diesel is manufactured out of the same feedstocks. And by the way, if renewable diesel is ultimately the product that we're blending into home heating oil, 15 years from now, I'd be elated. The National Biodiesel Board would be elated. We don't pick winners and losers ourselves. What we pick is liquid. Leveraging current market conditions. What does that mean? There's no better time to be talking about low carbon liquid fuels to your customer, whether you sell bioheat or not. You need to be explaining to your customer what's going on around you, your family business, or your company in general, and them. I could tell the story very easily. Mr. and Mrs. Cleaver, here's the deal. We want to continue to provide you home comfort. And the good news is I'm going to be able to do it. You know why? Because for the last decade, our industry has worked covertly to engineer a fuel that's going to give you clean combustion. And you're not going to have to make a laughable investment in infrastructure to put split systems in your house, because we now know that a retrofit of split systems in a 1,700 square foot home runs $21,000 to $23,000. The larger the square footage, the higher the price tag. And guess what? You're not going to have to really do much with me. At least B20 at this point in time, it's pour and go. As we go, we're going to navigate that. But stick with us. We have a story, we have a product. I want you to be my customer. And that leads us to the other opportunity. That's called market sustainability. So how will you transform your products and services over the next 5 years? My recommendation, please become proactive. Start marketing and discussing the benefits of a low carbon liquid fuel and begin sharing the story with your customers. If you don't, someone else will. And if the someone else isn't a liquid fuels provider, it will be someone selling electric heat pumps. Further, based on the hard trends, which I explained earlier, are fact-based, that are shaping the future, which I've shared with you what those are, what do you think you're going to have to do to prepare yourself for this new role that you're going to embark on, right? You're going to take the old, you're going to blend it with the new. You're going to coexist. Old and new is going to coexist for some time to come. So no one's kicking anyone out. To do this, you need to adopt, sell, and build value. That's a different class. You can no longer just going out saying, I'm 179 a gallon. Oh, really? They're going to give it to you 174? I'll give you the next delivery at 173. You can't function at backward auctions for the next 25 years. Backward auctions are not vogue anymore. You may think they are because you're participating in it. I'm telling you, waking up to run to the low number, waking up to beat down a wholesale supplier that has a big investment in steel and tanks to provide you fuel, to provide a customer, we're going to start treating people that we deal with some respect here. Everybody's entitled to make something of value in the supply chain. We're going to stop being barbaric and pounding on each other and undercutting each other. We need to go in one lockstep move, have confidence that this new product that we are going to bring to the public is the right product. It's something to be proud of. And if you want to be a long-term player in the low carbon liquid fuels liquid business, it's not just the product that has to change. It has to be you too. And again, what products or services are ready for reinvention? I think you know now. I've enough said. It's liquid fuels. So winding down here, this energy transition remains a priority. This is an excerpt, some highlights I pulled out of this Deloitte presentation. It was a cross-section of a lot of companies, a lot of scale, Fortune 50s down below and up, you name them, they were interviewed. 89% of executives either already had a plan in place or were developing a strategy to reduce reliance on fossil fuels. 30% said that they already had a fully developed plan in place. So I'm not asking or encouraging you to do anything that those above you that they're not doing. Everybody is doing this. You won't be all by yourself. While environmental benefits will likely be de-emphasized as companies regain their footing through the economic crisis, reducing costs and maintaining a competitive position remain important even in the downturn. Another way to look at this, in our government, depending on who occupies the Oval Office in Congress, you might say, well, you know what? All the stuff you're talking about may not be important. Like oh my God, fuel economy. I can remember giving presentations at EE a few years back talking about the corporate average. Thank you. I had to think about that. The corporate average fuel economy is going to be like 53, 55 miles a gallon. These engines are getting cleaner. Think about this. Engines are getting cleaner. Combustion is getting cleaner. People are using less gasoline. Pandemic helped that. I mean, down 40, 50% in travel. Gasoline sales are down. Everything's down. Will it rebound? A lot of people aren't going back to work. They're going to work out of their house. So yeah, you're going to sell them potentially more low carbon liquid home comfort because they're going to be there all winter long instead of going to an office. But my point is, more miles, cleaner miles. Heating oil, the same thing. People are going to use less product. Make no mistake about it. We're getting more and more efficient. So through people trying to just maintain and conserve, because even low prices, I mean, low prices would drive people to go drive, but where are you driving? You know, you're talking, I say in my world, I hope we're somewhat normalized in Q2 of 2021, but I'm not even too certain normalization exists for the next several years. So don't lose sight of the importance of the environmental benefits. There are ways, you know, people are getting a little bit lax thinking, oh, you know what? Coal plants aren't going to be around. They've already been whacked out by natural gas. They're around, but those are decreasing. I just don't want anyone to think we may not have to make this move, that we're going to continue to be able to, because of the conditions, continue selling what we sell. That's not going to happen. And finally, nearly 70% of the executives who reported that their company had a sustainability strategy in place cited digital technology supporting sustainability, energy efficiency. And the second key driver cited was customer support for reducing carbon emissions. Here's what it is. It's 18 pages of this subject. low carbon future, low carbon future. Those are the people that are going to feed those above you. Low carbon rolls downhill. So final thoughts. Use hard trends to transform your planning. Use soft trends to influence your future. Think about applying the both and or principle. Use the certainty of these hard trends that I'm providing you today to sell. You have facts that support the transition to low carbon liquid fuels. Become a disruptor. Elevate trust to accelerate success. And move beyond your competition by redefining and reinventing the products and services which you sell. And a final note, just to reinforce, you've heard me say over and over here in the last 44 minutes, low carbon liquid fuels, low carbon liquid fuels. Why haven't I said bioheat? Bioheat, I have a passion for it. The reason I would say bioheat, I'm trying to demonstrate to you that we're keeping the lines of communication and opportunities open for an industry. We don't know what's next, but we know bioheat or low carbon liquid fuel as bioheat today is the right product. But I want to remind you, there may be another phase to this. There may be another liquid that comes that can be integrated into this. So in your talk tracks, it's probably nice to say bioheat. That's what you're not going to put low carbon liquid fuel on the side of your truck. You're probably going to say bioheat. Or if you don't want to be bioheat, you want to be nature's fuel, be whatever you want, but be low carbon. But I just wanted to reemphasize why I'm not using the words so much like I have in the past, because I'm changing my talk track, because I want to keep an open mind for myself and my industry that we have to be ready for whatever comes down the pike. I really enjoyed sharing my ideas and comments with you. I'm sure some of you think, wow, is what he says really the facts? I mean, does it make sense? I don't know. I'm more than happy to have this conversation privately too. A lot of people don't like to voice their opinions publicly, but I do say this to you. I think we're on the right track. The last thing I'll say, and I'll turn it back to you, Eric, is please support your local leadership people. Get involved. Do not stay on the sideline, because being part of the transition is going to be more rewarding. So when you go and talk to a customer, you will bring what I hope to bring to you. My passion is the motivation. If you just take what we're telling you and begrudgingly take this opportunity and just go and do it like a frustrated young kid, your customer is going to know that you don't believe. If you don't believe, it's going to resonate. So once something is a passion, the motivation is there. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Eric. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul, for that. We do have a couple questions, but Paul, I would ask that you please turn your camera on so people can get the bookends of the experience of looking at the both of us. And I guess I didn't know that a Red Sox fan would have a Lou Gehrig jersey, so that's very nice.
Long story behind that.
Okay.
Good work ethic. Lou Gehrig had good work ethic.
So did Yaz. So first question: Can I use a bioheat logo as a fuel dealer? What do I need to do? How do we make that work? So for those that want to, engage in this, disruption that you're talking about, the tools that are there currently, what do they need to do to be able to be part of the force of change?
Thank you for the question. Sure. There's 3 trademarks right now: Bioheat, the original Bioheat logo, and then we've just trademarked 2 additional terms: Bioheat Plus, which would be blends of 6 to 20%, and Bioheat Super Plus, which would be 20 to 100%. To become a Bioheat, there's a simple registered trademark agreement. You can get it through our office. Simple execution, and then you can use the logo. It gives you specifics, the colors and all that. You can put it in your truck, your website, etc. You also can plug into mybioheat.com. That's not a sales-oriented site. It's an educational site. So I would say you'd want to plug into mybioheat.com. Link it to your website. Don't be worried about shipping us. There's not a dealer locator map on that, so no one's going to, take your account away from you. And one thing that we do is we are on the move. We want to help train people, and I have in my budget money to do that. So I'm trying to work that out with all the regional groups like yourself, Eric. If you want to put people together, want to do more of this type of training, we'll do it. We will empower you. We will teach you CSRs. We've been doing this for 10 years. Most of you on this call might have already had our services, whether my team's doing it or the Neural Lab people, John Levy or Bob O'Brien. We have resources to help you. We are not asking you to go to the battlefield alone. But the trademarks documents you can get that from our office.
Excellent. Another question, can you provide a quick overview of supply issues, etc.? Is there a supply issue if mandates are passed into law? So what's the update on supply as we know it now? And if we meet these benchmarks that the resolution calls for, what will it look like in that period of time to meet the benchmarks that the Providence resolution you mentioned before calls for?
Okay, so how do I concisely put this? There is adequate supply. Let me put this in perspective. If you look at our demand in pads 1A and B, the core epicenter user states, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, talk about 3.5 billion gallons of home heating oil is being consumed. Multiply that times 20%. I use 20% because that's the number that NEFI is using their aspirational goals to get to B20 by 2023. So Eric, what's 20% of 3.5 billion? It's like 700 million gallons. Let's just say it is. Yeah, that was really good. I like that. I would say to you, and I know there's going to be people on this call saying, oh, come on, Paul. Bring it on. The biodiesel community has 3 billion gallons. Now, arguments, hey, what about all the stuff going out to the West Coast? Renewable diesel and biodiesel, that's a 1 billion gallon market out there. Minnesota, Illinois, Iowa, Texas, those are muscle states. New England, you have to understand heating oil is going to be consumed between November and March. I do not see supply as a disrupting factor. I mean, NEFI has their supply and infrastructure group in process right now. I'll be anxious to see what they say. I've been studying this for better than a decade. With planning, I'm going to simplify this. With planning, we can accommodate our demand. I am not worried about running out of biodiesel to bring to New England. I really don't care if it comes from Canada, Germany. I don't care where it comes from. We will have supply of biodiesel in this market to supply your B20 needs. I had to do it like that because that's a subject I'd have to be in the room with the naysayers, and then we'd go at it. And I'd love to go at it because I'm a disruptor. So.
Yes, you were a disruptor before you read that book.
Yes, I was.
Okay. Does anyone else have a question? Would anyone else like to? It won't be as fun as if we were in person, but if somebody wants to take the other side, I will be happy to be the conduit to Paul. Okay, hold on. It looks like we have. Nope, that appears to be, that's everything that we have that's in the queue. So do you have any closing words, Paul? And I have a couple of housekeeping items once you're finished, but any closing thoughts, Paul? Thank you for that presentation.
No, I would only say my phone number's there. That's my cell phone. That's my email address. I'm here. You need help? I have the resources and the human resources, to help you guys out. So hope you want to join and let's build this industry together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. And thank all of you. We had just about 70 individuals with us this morning. Thank you all. This program is being recorded and will be available on the Eastern Energy Expo website for the duration of the month. And then after that, we will transition it to our YouTube channel. We opened the exhibit floor, the virtual exhibit floor on Saturday, and it will be open all month, please. There's 125 thereabout companies that are exhibiting. They've held our hand and jumped off the cliff with us in this new format that's new to all of us. Please be sure to recognize their commitment to our industry by doing that. Take a look at their products. Each exhibitor has their own sort of enhanced landing area where they can offer you an overview of what their products are, new, old, and more importantly, you have the ability to, just as you would have seen them if you were walking the aisles of the show floor, you have the ability to interact with them. So use the tool that we have there for you to schedule a time for you to speak with them. Please be sure to visit them. Yes, Paul.
I do have one. I apologize. You brought that up. So BioHeat is underwriting the technical sessions, I believe. So what Eric was alluding to, I've uploaded a tremendous amount of information on the BioHeat table. There's video clips. There's already ready to go buck slips that if you wanted to emboss your logo on them, go to that tabletop and take a look at that. If you have any questions, let me know. But you can grab as much information off that as you possibly could ever want. Sorry, Eric.
No, that's excellent. That's an excellent. You're killing two birds with one stone for me there, Paul. To show about the value and the utility of this online venue for both attendees and exhibitors, as well as for those of you that are interested in becoming the disruptor in your market to get collateral materials to not only learn more but find out what you need to do to get any type of collateral marketing materials that you might need. So this concludes today's webinar. We will be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. with Dennis DiSabatino from Cargus with using data to drive strategy. So please be sure to log in tomorrow at 10 a.m. for our program, and we will be continuing every business day for the month of August at 10 a.m. with a live interactive session just as this, where you'll be able to participate via our GoToWebinar format. It's unfortunate. I very much enjoy live interaction. If there's anything I love the naysayers, as Paul does. I love it when people ask probing questions. It keeps us on our feet, and we're all asking them from the perspective of what's the best interest for the industry. So please take advantage of the opportunity to interact, even though it's a step removed from being to interact directly. And you will have the contact information for all of our speakers for the month if you wish to follow up with them one-on-one. And until tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., I thank you all for being a part of the inaugural session here for EEE 2020 On Demand. Have a good day and be safe. Thank you all.